Hi, my name is Lily and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be talking about how I plan my reading as a mood reader. So this title might seem a bit mismatched considering mood reading is supposed to be all about following your mood and not planning your reading, but I will explain. So if you don't really know what a mood reader is, it is basically what it says on the tin. It is someone who doesn't pick their books in advance and just kind of decides what to read based on how they're feeling. But there are different ways that people mood read. Some people will literally just finish a book and go, what do I feel like reading next? And pick it off the shelf. And other people will still try and structure their mood reading a bit more. I kind of fluctuate a bit, and I do sometimes end up being that person that just picks up whatever they fancy afterwards. But I think ultimately I have decided that it helps to have a little bit of structure in my life, because there are some times when I need to read books at set times. So the reason I've introduced more structure into my mood reading is because I keep finding that I get pre-orders of sequels coming and I haven't reread the books that come before it recently enough so that I can't read them because I don't know what's going on anymore. And then those just kind of sit on the shelves for ages. And yes, one of those I am referencing is Kingdom of Ash, which I still haven't read. So there's a few different ways that I structure my reading that I wanted to talk to you about because I feel like other mood readers might find this helpful. Now, the first thing that I find sometimes is that I will finish a book and I just don't know what to read. I have no idea what I'm feeling like. And that is really annoying as a mood reader because it feels like every book is wrong and there's too many choices. So the way I do this is I either have a TBR jar or a spreadsheet. At the moment, I have a spreadsheet of my books, so I would do it this way. And basically what I do is find a way to narrow down my choice. So if I have a TBR jar with all of my books on my TBR in it, to generate a number somewhere between like 3 and 10, and those are the number of books I'll pick out of the TBR jar and decide between those small selection if I want to read any of them. And if it turns out I don't want to read any of the ones I've picked out, then I just keep repeating the process until I find one that appeals. But usually within the first pick, I'll get say like 5 books and there'll be one that I'm like, yeah, I'll read that one. And that really helps. So that is one really quick and easy way to do it. As I said, I used to do this with a TBR jar, but then I found that if you weren't always using the TBR jar every time, it got a bit annoying because you'd start picking out books you'd read before that you hadn't picked from the TBR jar. So now what I do is I have like a spreadsheet of all the books that I own that are unread, and I just get a random number generator to pick the number from the list, however many that I want to pick from, and that's how I do it. But yeah, however you store it is up to you, but that is one really easy way to kind of structure your reading and help you narrow down when you're a mood reader. I do also actually have a TBR game that I play, but I never put it on my channel because I don't play it consistently enough to be able to make it a feature, and I actually do it book by book. So say I want to pick my next read, but I don't have anything that I feel like I need to read. I don't really know what I fancy. So instead I will go and play my TBR game, and basically depending on what square I land on the board I made, it will give me a prompt. And sometimes the prompts will be really specific and sometimes they'll be really vague, and if it's too vague, I just play it again. So if you can, trying to create a TBR game can be really helpful if you are a mood reader but you feel like you need a bit more structure, but having it as a TBR game that you can just play continuously to get prompts. Someone said to me once, like, why do you bother when, you know, you could just use a stack of prompt cards? But it makes it more fun. Like, I like having a TBR game, it makes it really fun. It just feels more rewarding that way, and it was fun to design it, so I don't care what you think. But yeah, sometimes just having like a stack of prompts or a TBR game to pick things from for you is super helpful. I wouldn't recommend having punishments or rewards as a mood reader because I find it gets really, really demotivating. The main way that I am currently structuring my reading as a mood reader is actually using a system that I learnt from PE at school, which is the must, should, and could system. So basically in PE we used to have like, in this lesson everyone must do this skill, you should be able to do this skill, and you could try and do this skill. And so what I do each month is I have the headings of must, should and could, and then I put books into categories based on that. So I'll think about books, say I'll check my pre-order tracker and see what pre-orders are arriving this month, and if it's a sequel then I will think about whether or not I need to reread the books before it, and I will put those books, if I do need to reread it, in the must pile for this month because I must read them so that I can then read the sequel when it arrives. And then usually the sequel goes in the should pile, because if I don't decide to reread the previous books until the end of the month, then I'll pick up the sequel in the next month, if you get what I mean. I don't tend to put the sequel in the must read pile straight away unless I've already reread the books I need to reread. But I will also check if I have any arcs I need to read, and those will go in the must pile. If there's any buddy reads I need to be reading, or if there's any book that I feel like I've been putting off for a really long time and that I need to read now, I will put in the must read pile. I might also put things in there seasonally. So over December, my must read pile had more wintry and Christmas themed books that I wanted to read because it was Christmas. Now, should and could piles are really up to your own interpretation. So obviously it's what it says on the tin, it's books I should read and books I could read. So should are ones that perhaps I've got a lot of arcs coming up in the next month, so I want to get ahead, and I'll put some of the next month's arcs in the should pile so that I can get through some this month before next month starts. It could be that I know a pre-order's coming next month and it would be good to get started on the rereads now, and I'll put them in the should. But other times it'll be books that I know I've been hyped for but I've been putting off, and I'll put those in the should pile to try and encourage me to read them. Usually the could pile is books that I feel like I really want to read but I might not get time for, or I don't need to read immediately, or just ones that I feel like I will put off if I don't put them on there. It really varies month to month, but I find it a really helpful structure because I try to make sure all of the must reads are done before the should reads, all the should reads are done before the could reads, and it just helps break it down a bit and make it a bit more, it makes it a bit easier to tackle. Of course, when readathons come around, I do TBRs, but back in the day when my TBR wasn't really huge, I would go through my whole TBR, and for each prompt I wanted to complete for a readathon, I would write down every single book that could count for that prompt. I would then highlight them using the traffic system, so green was the one that I was most likely to pick, yellow were my backup options, and then red were the ones that like, yeah, this fits but I probably won't read it. And that was one way that I managed to be able to keep my mood reading. And I just never participated in a readathon that said you couldn't change your TBR. Like, I'd film a TBR video or make a TBR blog post when I had a blog, but I very rarely ever followed it. Oh, and the final thing is sometimes I will also do seasonal TBRs. So I'll pick a bunch of books that I want to read over the summer and try and make sure I read them over the summer. And I will usually then break them down into the must, should, could categories for each month, where like by the end of August they're all kind of in the must because I haven't read them yet if it's summer. But I do it with wintry books and I do it with spooky books for Halloween. So that's another simple way to do it, is to do seasonal TBRs instead of having them month to month if you don't read a lot every month. So yeah, this feels like it was a little bit chaotic and rambly, but I've had a few people ask me what I mean when I say that I like do structure my read as a mood reader. So I hope this is helpful and interesting for people, and if you are a mood reader and you have any other ways that you structure your reading, let me know in the comments because I find it really interesting and maybe I will steal some techniques from people. But yeah, that is it from me, so thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. All of my social media links are down in the description below. If you want to leave me a comment to let me know you're here, leave me something to do with a game in the comments, so like a chess piece or a dice or something like that, because of TBR games. So yes, that is it. Thank you for watching. Bye!